Hi there. As I mentioned in my previous video, I have a massive trip ahead of me starting next week. And if you pardon the pun, it's been a real journey putting it all together, and I'd like to share some of my thoughts about that in this video. So before we get into the discussion, please like this video and subscribe to the channel as it aids the algorithm as well as helps me to grow the channel. To begin with, I'm in the possession of a number of airline credit cards, these being, and here they are right here, the Hawaiian Airlines credit card, the Advantage Mile Up credit card. I actually downgraded that from the $99 Platinum Select, and I have both the Delta Sky Miles Platinum and the Business Gold. And there's one other card I'm going to mention later on in this video. And also to know, I've signed up with virtually every other airline rewards program that I can probably conceive of flying with. So let's first of all talk about the plus side. If you see yourself being loyal to a particular airline, then you stand a good chance of collecting redeemable miles and working your way up the status ladder. But is it worth it? Well, as you can guess from what I've said up to now, I'm not really convinced it is, and I want to share some of my thoughts with you on this. To begin with, on my upcoming trip to Europe, Australia, and Asia, I'm going to be traveling on 7 different airlines. On the majority of these flights, I was able to redeem miles via the various credit cards I have and or the miles I've accrued through travel and spending on the airlines themselves. However, for a few compelling reasons, for a couple flights, I opted to purchase my tickets outright. And there are quite a number of other people making very insightful and enlightening videos about the history of airline loyalty programs. Of course, the first one was American Airlines with its Advantage program, which had started in 1981. And for a long time, loyalty meant you were rewarded by the number of flights, the miles you got or you accrued, and you could work your way up to a higher status, which could mean anything from getting on the plane sooner to free baggage, which was something they put in later, which I think is why do they do that? And then also getting upgrades and lounge access. Unfortunately, these days, virtually all airline rewards programs have jettisoned that approach and have gone over to a fee-based rewards program. In other words, now you have to spend money with the particular airline to work your way up the status ladder. And with each ensuing year, it seems that spending that amount is getting higher and higher. As in the case of the recent Delta and British Airways changes to the rewards requirements. Then it really becomes a question, is it worth it? So let's talk about what it means to you and me. Do we need loyalty and status to get these perks and upgrades? Are they worth the time, the money, and the effort? And in my opinion, in most cases, there are enough ways around this so that you can do quite well by picking and choosing your flights with whichever airline offers you the best deals and or conditions for you. For me, I've traveled enough in economy class that if there's a way I can avoid having to travel that way, I'll gladly pay a little more in points and fees to move up a class or two. And keep in mind, the higher the class, the sooner you can board the plane, the more luggage you can store on the plane. You probably will have better meals and better treatment, all the way up to getting lounge access. And there are other ways to get that perk as well. For example, our flight to London Heathrow from Miami for my wife and I, we were able to go on Virgin Atlantic Premium Economy, and it cost us a total of $305 and 86,580 Flying Blue points. Also, at the end of my trip, I'll be in Prague and wanting to get back to Miami. I don't mind flying, so I thought I'd look for something rather extravagant and look for the best option available. And in this case, I checked around through all the major cities on a number of airlines websites and also on various travel portals. And I landed upon a British Airlines first class flight leaving from Rome to Heathrow and back to Miami for about 100,000 Alaska miles and $650, which was admittedly a splurge. However, if you know about BA's first class offering, it's one of the best products out there. And if I had had to pay for the flight, it would have run me probably anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 and maybe even more. So if you're an observant person, and I'm assuming you are, you'd be asking yourself, wait, he's leaving from Prague? Why are you going to Rome? Well, here's the answer to that. In the airline travel world, there's the concept of positioning flights, and that is first figuring out which flight I want to take and then figuring out how to get there to take advantage of this offer. And in this case, for a mere 9,000 Virgin Atlantic miles and $51 taxes and fees, I was able to book a business class flight from Rome to Paris Charles de Gaulle and then from there to Rome. Admittedly, flying in business in Europe isn't the same as flying international first class or business, but you do get expedited check-in, faster security lines, greater seat space, more luggage if you need it, decent food on the flight, which they do even if it's usually short duration, and of course automatic admittance to business lounges. And so again, who needs status? My only other expense for this part of the trip was meant getting a hotel near Rome's airport, and I found a Hilton nearby. I opted to pay for that as I also have Hilton status, and I have a Hilton credit card, which I will talk about in another video. But since the points cost was pretty high, I just said I'll pay for it and I'll get points that way because you get Hilton points every time you use the Hilton card. So from there, I'll be catching a plane from Rome to Heathrow in first or business class, I guess, and then hang in the lounge there for a short time and then let myself be pampered on the way home. So to wrap this all up, are all airline loyalty programs bad? Well, actually, there are a few really good ones out there and some real killer deals to be had if you are on the lookout. As a matter of fact, I came across one recently that I intend to make the most of. Since many of my flights on this trip are on One World Alliance Airlines, I came across a rather unique offer by Qatar Airlines for what they have called the Privileged Club Card. At the time of this writing, this card offers 25,000 avios, which is a pretty valuable airline currency, which is shared by Qatar Airlines, British Airways, Finnair, and Aer Lingus, and I think maybe Iberia as well. And after the first purchase, you can earn another 25,000 avios and 150 Q points, which helps you retain your status. But it is a rather hefty $5,000 spending requirement in the first 3 months of having the card. There is another fact, and that is that this card costs a whopping $499 a year. I wasn't really intending on meeting the spending requirement because I meant mostly just to take advantage of what I really liked about this card, and that is it gives you immediate One World Sapphire status for a year, of course, but it does give you the chance to extend it another year by earning another 270 Q points. And for that reason, the 150 Q points is a great head start. Plus, you get another 2 Q points for every 1,500 points you earn using the card. And right now, they're having a special deal where you get 6x for dining, which is a really good deal. That's basically 6% back, especially because avios are pretty valuable currency again. My wife said, "Let's go and see if we can make that 5,000." So we're in the midst of that right now. And another thing is, what is Sapphire status? One World Sapphire status, which goes across a number of airlines, anything in the One World airline status. And those perks are not to be taken lightly. You get access to business class lounges, you get business class priority check-in, you get access to preferred or pre-reserved seating, you get priority wait lists when on standby, priority boarding, and when you fly on any One World member airline, you can check in extra baggage for free in addition to getting your normal ticketed baggage allowance and priority baggage handling. So even if it only ends up being for 1 year, I really see myself taking advantage of this program. And another thing that I just discovered today when I was going through my flight, because I'm going to be flying on Qatar from Singapore to Vienna with a stop in Doha. And another thing you get with the card once you sign up for it is you get what they call Q credits, which you can use for upgrades. And I got 40 Q credits, and I was actually able to upgrade to Q Suite, well, one, for free, basically, from the first leg from Singapore to Doha, which is a 7.5 hour flight. So I'm really excited about that. Anyway, as always, I could go into a lot more, but I think I'm going to end it here. I hope you found this information helpful. I welcome any thoughts and comments, and happy traveling.